Good evening. Today is Monday, July 18th. This is the regular meeting of Lakewood City Council. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silence. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Here.
Bullock.
Here.
Litton.
Here.
Marks. Here. Nowlan.
Here.
O'Leary.
Here.
O'Malley.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held July 5th, 2016.
Move to dispose without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes. Without objection, I'd like to move items 11 and 12 to the top of our docket this evening.
Item 11, communication from Mayor Summers regarding 2016 Grand Marshal of the 4th of July Parade, Rear Admiral Janet Russell Donovan.
Mayor Summers.
Thank you, President O'Leary, members of council, members of the audience. We had a wonderful 4th of July here in Lakewood. We have much to celebrate, much to be proud of, and much to be reflected upon. And I would invite council to join me tonight in recognizing Admiral Janet Russell Donovan as the 2016 July 4th Parade Grand Marshal. Admiral Donovan is one of 34 serving women admirals in the United States Navy. She's a proud graduate of Lakewood High School, class of 1979. She has spent her entire career in the Judge Advocate General's Corps as a lawyer, and was very grateful for the honor, and at her own expense worked through the naval bureaucracy to get approval to not make a political statement by riding into the Grand Marshal of the Lakewood 4th of July Parade. So we were very grateful that she was able to join us. We're also very pleased to recognize several parade winners, and I think we have them all here today. So I'm going to read them, and then I'll let you decide if we want to call them up one at a time, which I suggest we might since there's groups. But the best color guard was the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 387. Do we have a representative here? Yes, thank you, great. The best float was the Lakewood Child Care Center. Do we have folks from the Lakewood Child Care Center? The most original entry was the Beck Center for the Arts. Do we have Beck with us tonight? Yes, we do. The best bicycle was the Emerson Unicycle Club, and they are with us as well. And the most spirit was H2O Helped Others, and I know I see representatives from H2O here. Certainly the enthusiasm on the part of so many to be part of our July 4th celebration is something we're all grateful for, but we're especially grateful for the quality that these representatives bring to us. So we're going to be recognizing them with plaques.
Great. Thank you so much. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes. And Mayor, I guess if we want to call them up one by one, as you mentioned,
Sure.
we can come down and, I guess, take
So
a
Veterans
picture.
of Foreign Wars. All right, we feel others who want to join you. Yeah, come on up. Yeah, we're going to do it again.
You're the guest of honor, right? Thank you again so much for participating and celebrating with us.
Thank you very much.
Beck Center for the Arts, most original entry. Now we know know that Beck has a secret advantage. It's called a prop shop. Lots and lots of interesting stuff in that prop shop. And they dug it out for us, so thank you.
Looks better that way.
Yeah, guys, you want to move forward? Sure.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Maybe a couple more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Good job. These are props left over from Mary Poppins. The most spirited, helped others.
And you want to go back there with council?
Congratulations.
They're a little subdued now.
Yay! The spirit. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. The best float, Lakewood Child Care Center. You want to tell us what your float was? Many of us were scattered around. We might
Well, we were celebrating our 25th birthday, and it was a big birthday cake from Red, White, and Blue.
All right, here, we'll set back.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, thanks. It was all us.
All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, those who may not know, Lakewood Child Care Center is 3-star, how many stars? 5-star. 5 out of 5-star Child Care Center. The best bicycle, Emerson Unicycle Club.
No injuries? Everyone good? Survived the parade?
Yeah.
All right, who wants to hold the flag?
It's hard to pick up candy.
Here, hold it up there, so we can see it.
Good job. Thanks, guys.
That's good. Thank you.
Nice work.
You have to register your job.
Thanks again, Mayor, and thanks again to all of our parade participants. It was a wonderful event, as always. That brings us to item 1. I'm sorry. No, this is item 12. That's the resolution.
Item 12, Resolution 887916, a resolution to thank Rear Admiral Janet Russell Donovan for participating as the 2016 Grand Marshal in the City of Lakewood 4th of July Parade.
Mayor, do you have any additional comments to introduce this resolution?
Well, I think it goes without saying that for someone to achieve flag rank in the United States Navy, which is what an admiral is, as a rear admiral, is a remarkable career achievement. It's comparable to a general officer, which is what the rest of the military forces use as their highest level of leadership. So in order to attain that level, you have to demonstrate enormous amount of leadership capacity and enormous dedication and enormous hard work and production. One thing I would say that Admiral Donovan did two things that are noteworthy about her performance as Grand Marshal. For those who were paying attention, she could snap a mean salute, and there were many veterans along the path who stood up to salute her, and she would give a really sharp salute back to them, and they all appreciated that. Several of the veterans commented how much they appreciated her response to their salute. And the second thing is that, and I forgot to tell her this before the parade, and I right behind her, your arm actually gets very tired in the course of that, those of you who have been there. And I told her to save her energy to the best she's able. But boy, she didn't waver a minute. She waved vigorously that entire parade route. So she gave it her all, and I think it added a spirit to the whole parade.
Great, thank you. I would move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion from council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 1, Committee of the Whole report regarding July 18, 2016 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole met last week. We had with us Thompson Hines managing partner Deborah Reed. Deborah Reed gave us extensive background information on formation, governance, and setup and programming of nonprofits throughout our community as well as conceptually. Council members had the opportunity to engage and ask questions, and we'll continue to work through the issues that we raised there as we go about the work of appointing this planning task force. Move to receive and file that oral report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Bullock.
You can hear me. I wasn't able to attend last week, but I did watch the Committee of the Whole discussion, and I appreciate it very much on YouTube, thanks to our Public Information Officer, Mr. McEwen, over there. So thank you for that, and it was very helpful to follow what was a very important discussion about the initial stages of getting our sense of direction for framing a new community health foundation. I did want to share with council members that my own thinking from what Attorney Deborah Reed shared was that we would head towards a broader focus for the new community health foundation, primarily because I don't think we can anticipate now, at the early stages, any one specific focus. For example, a leukemia foundation is focused only on leukemia. We don't have that narrow focus. So I thought we would most likely be benefited by a tax structure that has a broader focus. The other thing that she raised was the question of whether we want to fundraise. And I think we probably do want to fundraise. Those are two major, I guess, choice points or forks in the road that we face. I just thought I'd share my own initial thinking with my colleagues since I wasn't able to attend last week. Thanks.
Thanks. I appreciate you sharing those thoughts with us tonight, and I also appreciate you highlighting the fact that for those who couldn't join us for that discussion in person, it is available online, and also keep an eye out for minutes from that meeting as well. Additional discussion of the motion to receive and file the oral report. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 2, Finance Committee report regarding ordinance 4315A.
Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee met tonight and discussed two items. One was the next item on the docket, proposed ordinance 4315A. The Finance Committee recommended adoption on second reading, suspension of the rules and adoption on second reading of that ordinance, which would add $150,000 in contracting authority capacity to the same projects that we have already deliberated upon and approved as part of our 2015 budget deliberations for the 2016 budget year. The reason for that, as all council members heard, I think we were all present, was, or is rather, to add capacity for contingency, the approximately 10% that construction projects need for potentially unanticipated circumstances. So that's all, it's the same projects, and we know we have sufficient funds appropriated to accommodate this additional contracting authority. So the Finance Committee agreed with that recommendation, and given the time sensitivity of these projects and the fact that council will not meet during August, we also recommended that we suspend the rules and adopt tonight. The second item we discussed was our ongoing development of a council priorities budget process. That we plan to continue next Monday, the 25th, I think it is, and that'll be ongoing. It's an exciting discussion, and I look forward to council members' feedback on that. Move to receive and file that oral report.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file the oral report? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 3, ordinance 4315A, an ordinance amending ordinance 4315 adopted December 21st, 2015, to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the administrative code of the city of Lakewood for CDBG fund infrastructure improvements, placed on first reading, referred to the Finance Committee 7516.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? As you'll recall, and as Councilman Bullock just mentioned, the purpose is that the projects are time sensitive and that council will recess for the month of August.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Anderson.
I just wanted to express my appreciation to the administration, Director Benno, for providing some details regarding the 5 projects that are sort of slated to be covered by these appropriations: Chase, Detroit Avenue Streetscape, and Albert Merle Newman. So again, I appreciate the feedback and the discussion. And I also saw in my inbox you did send over the streetscape plan for Detroit already, Director Benno, so I appreciate that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Nowlin?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes. And that motion passes. Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Nowlin?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes. That motion passes.
Item 4, Public Safety Committee report regarding Resolution 887816.
Councilman O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Public Safety Committee met this evening. The sole item on our agenda was discussion of Resolution 887816. I think as many people know, the state legislature passed and the governor signed into law making it permissible to use marijuana for medical purposes. This ordinance, or this resolution, was introduced at our last meeting to allow for a moratorium not to exceed 6 months to allow us to determine the best way forward in terms of any potential regulation. The legislature gave municipalities a great deal of latitude in determining how they would implement or indeed outright ban cultivation or sale within their own cities. We were joined by Director Butler, who provided a very helpful overview of this new law, and by Chief Malley as well. We determined that while not making any judgments in terms of how indeed we would proceed with regulation, that a short period of time to discuss best public policy in this matter was reasonable, and recommended adoption of this resolution.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that oral report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file that oral report? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 5, Resolution 887816, a resolution to impose a moratorium on the granting of building permits or certificates of occupancy for any building, structure, use, or change of use that would enable the cultivation, processing, or retail sale of medical marijuana for a period not to exceed 6 months from the effective date of this resolution, in order to allow council and the Lakewood Planning Commission to review applicable Ohio statutes, criminal codes, and the Lakewood zoning code relative to such use. Refer to the Public Safety Committee 7516.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilman O'Malley.
I just wanted to repeat just what I had stated in our Public Safety Committee this evening, which was that, I followed this with some interest as it moved through the state legislature and was moved by a number of individuals who testified. I believe the committee, considering this, traveled the state to have hearings throughout Ohio, even had some local testimony as well. And certainly supportive, however, of allowing us a reasonable period of time to determine how we would implement this. This is something that's been implemented in other states as well, with varying degrees of success and failure. And so pleased that we'll be able to take a little bit of time here and determine the best way forward. Thank you.
Thanks. Just echo those sentiments also from the personal standpoint. It's a debate that I followed as well, and look forward to our opportunity to make sure that we find a balance that's right for Lakewood. And I think that this moratorium will afford us the opportunity to do that. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Anderson.
Yeah, I just wanted to support those points as well, and to just reiterate that this new proposed use of a property in Lakewood, providing an opportunity for us to study the potential impact the best that we can. It's something that we've done with regularity when the opportunity presented itself in the past, and I think the law director provided us with at least 3 opportunities to remember when we took the opportunity to, again, just give ourselves a little bit of time to study this, determine the impact. So it's not out of the ordinary for us to put a temporary moratorium when there's a new proposed use for property in Lakewood to consider. So I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to learning more.
Thanks. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 6, Rules and Ordinances Committee Report regarding Ordinance 3216.
Councilman Litton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Rules and Ordinances Committee met on July 5th with one agenda item, which was Ordinance 32-16, regarding moving provisions of Chapter 1722 of the Sanitary Code related to the location of swimming pools into the zoning code. This would allow, as mentioned previously, for residents to apply for a variance where they are currently unable to do so. After a brief discussion of the mechanics of such a move, the committee agreed to recommend adoption upon third reading, pending, of course, the additional approval of the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Move to receive and file.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file that oral report? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 7, Ordinance 3216, an ordinance amending Section 172201, Location of Family Pools, Section 112110, Additional Accessory Structure Regulations, and Section 112310, Additional Accessory Structure Regulations of the codified ordinances of the city, in order to provide for the regulation of the location of family swimming pools within the zoning code. First reading to refer to the Rules and Ordinances Committee 6/2016, second reading 7/5/16.
Move to defer.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 8, liquor permit application for D5 transfer to Yuzu 13603 Madison Avenue.
Thank you. I believe we are in receipt of a report on this property at this time. This particular address is in Councilman Litton's ward, correct?
Yes.
So we will defer to Councilman Litton.
Yes, I've reviewed the report and see no statutory reason to object.
Thank you. Move, therefore, to file without objection.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 9, communication from Councilmember Bullock regarding enumerating costs to Lakewood taxpayers of defending hospital lawsuit.
Thank you. Before we get to Councilman Bullock, we have a number of folks that are signed up to speak on this agenda item. The first is Tom Monahan.
Would it be, point of order, Mr. Chair, would it be okay if I were to read the communication, and then on the motion to receive and file, we have public comment.
Sure,
Okay.
I can accommodate that. Mr. Monahan, would you mind if Mr. Bullock reads the communication first? Thanks. Mr. Bullock, please proceed.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Dear members of dear Mayor and members of council, for more than a year, the city of Lakewood has been conducting a legal defense against a lawsuit brought by 5 Lakewood citizens against the city and other parties related to the plan, now in effect, to preserve dozens of medical services in the heart of Lakewood's downtown by transitioning Lakewood Hospital to an outpatient medical center. Those citizens filed the lawsuit relying on their legal standing as taxpayers and speaking in those legal documents as if they represent all taxpayers, although they do not. Not only do the plaintiffs not speak for all Lakewood taxpayers, they are costing their fellow Lakewood taxpayers a significant sum of money due to the costs of the legal representation required by the city necessitated by their lawsuit. Those costs comprise both direct costs, such as payments to the law firm providing outside counsel, and indirect costs, such as the personnel costs of employee time required for legal and public records work entailed by the lawsuit. By this letter, I am officially requesting that the administration provide an exact enumeration of all direct costs involved with the lawsuit to date, as well as an accounting of the indirect costs. I also request a projection of additional costs, both direct and indirect, that will be incurred by the city in conducting the remainder of the still pending lawsuit to the degree that that is possible. And finally, I request the administration state whether the city can pursue a legal avenue in the lawsuit that could compensate Lakewood taxpayers in whole or in part for the cost of this lawsuit, which 5 of their neighbors have filed without their consent. Move to receive and file that communication.
Thank you. And as you mentioned before we address the motion to receive and file, I'll take the public comment that's signed up to speak. I second the motion to receive and file, and then we'll take the public comment. Mr. Monahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tom Monahan, 1487 Waterbury Road. I'd like to make a few comments about Mr. Bullock's letter concerning his request to seek what the city's defense costs are. We are all interested in that forthcoming information. Your letter starts out by stating that you and others have been conducting a legal defense against our legal lawsuit in order to preserve dozens of medical services by closing Lakewood Hospital. Clearly, you have not met that goal because you closed the hospital and deprived the community of access to several hundred hospital beds and the related services. It also stated that our lawsuit does not speak for all Lakewood residents and is costing Lakewood taxpayers a significant sum of money. Had you and others done your moral duty, this city would be $16,750,000 richer over the next 10 years. The letter has overtones of outright inflammatory statements that fly in the face of who we are in this nation. Also, there is a robust attempt at intimidation in it. It's my guess that Mr. Bullock has never read our Constitution, in particular the First Amendment. It says that the government cannot pass a law that prohibits the right of the people to petition the government for redress of grievances. There is a clear delineation of the rights of all people in that amendment. He has his right to say what he wants to say, but he does not possess the sole role as an arbiter to dictate what other people can say or do. Clearly, our lawsuit could have had hundreds of people sign on to it as plaintiffs, but that would only have overburdened the court, so we limited our plaintiffs to 5. The lawsuit was brought to you because you and other officials did something that we felt was not in the long-term interest of our community. And you did it in such a way as to weave a plot of lies and deception that is now unraveling more and more each day as depositions are taken and documents are brought into the public light. You complain that some of those costs are the result of employees having to respond to legal subpoenas for documents related to our lawsuit. That is our right, and that is your obligation to respond in a timely fashion to those document requests. To try to diminish that right is something that flies in the face of justice. You have chosen your path, and part of the pathway is to fight your own citizens. And in doing so, you chose to spend money that the city will desperately need someday,
and you want to deceive the public again by saying that we are costing the city money. Look in the mirror, young man, and you and your colleagues are the cause of the money being spent in the manner you whine about. And your final paragraph is nothing but political grandstanding by a person who specializes in such a practice, and you seek to intimidate those who disagree with you. You have failed miserably and opened yourself up for all to see what you are, a politician who seeks to serve himself through self-promotion. Thank you.
Sir, I appreciate the comment, but I do just remind all people who are here tonight to generally direct their comments to the chair. Thank you for speaking. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Our next speaker is Ed Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I was a math teacher at South High School, an older math teacher by the name of Sam Goldstein undertook to explain the meaning and correct pronunciation of the word chutzpah. He said that gall was an approximate meaning. Tonight, I think we have had an excellent example given of chutzpah. A member of City Council has inferred that citizens were causing unnecessary expense to the city by engaging in litigation on behalf of the interests of our citizens. That same council member is also a member of Lakewood Hospital Association who approved the improper spending of $50,000 of that body's money on political donations for spreading lies to the public to defeat an issue that would allow our citizens a vote on the propriety of destroying our hospital. That's real chutzpah. Bid rigging is a form of fraud in which a commercial contract is promised to one party, even though for the sake of appearance, several other parties also present a bid. This form of collusion is illegal in most countries. Another form of bid rigging fraud is when a government selectively issues bids for proposals for the sake of appearance, having already decided to award, or should I say give away, taxpayers' assets to an insider. Unfortunately, all too often it's become necessary for constituents to act on their own to seek redress in the courts when elected officials breach their fiduciary duty and violate the public trust and embrace rigged bidding. As the great parliamentarian Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. In Lakewood, good people have undertaken to counteract the evil of the theft of our council.
Sure, Councilman Bullock.
Thank you. I always appreciate the eloquent remarks of our neighbors in the community who support the hospital. In fact, I compliment your writing. There's some very good rhetorical flair to the comments that we have tonight. I do want to respond to one or 2 points. First, it is a plan to preserve dozens of medical services in the heart of Lakewood's downtown by transitioning to an outpatient medical center, because the alternative was nothing. And this gets to the heart of the issue, and I think that our good friends misunderstand fundamentally the choice that was available to the city and to the city leaders. And that was to do something, and this was the only viable something, or to do nothing and let it close and lose everything. So it's correct that we lose inpatient beds, and it's correct that we don't have in front of us a path towards retaining all of the jobs that we used to have in the inpatient hospital. And that's a loss, and it's a painful loss. But it's also correct that the actions we took preserved huge amounts of funds, tens of millions of dollars for public health, to protect the taxpayers from tax increases, and medical services. Fundamentally, what we're talking about is a market-driven decision. First, the hospital board, and second, city council sought an alternative partner, and were not able to come up with an alternative partner that would have run Lakewood Hospital as an inpatient model. And in light of that choice, we made the best choice available, and it's quite a strong deal in preserving quite a lot of good in terms of medical services and financial resources for the community. For the community's good. So I think that that's not a confusion at all, but confusion on the part of some of the residents that spoke here tonight. The other thing I would like to just point out, I think the spirit of my letter is not to suppress public comment. We enjoy public comment, and I'm sure we'll enjoy more tonight all the time. And this venue is the people's as much as anything. The courts are certainly available to any citizen. The point simply is that your lawsuit bears a cost, and it's not a small cost. And it's not a cost that all Lakewood citizens agree to, but yet they're in a position of contributing to, because lawsuits are serious. They should be undertaken frivolously. And what your lawsuit is addressing is a policy decision, not a personal liability or a misdeed or action or something that is more traditionally subject of a lawsuit. You're using the private courts, or excuse me, you're using the court action to address a public policy decision, and there are other established theaters in which those public policy decisions are appropriately made here. And there's other ways to settle those questions, not a judge, but the voting electorate, and they did so multiple times last election, for the mayor's election, for council members' election, and for issue 64. It wasn't a close call. The people have spoken multiple times over. And so the lawsuit continues, and there's a legal process for that. But every day and week and month it continues, it is running the meter of cost. And my hope is that the administration may be able to shed light on what that number is, because the last I heard it was climbing above 6 figures. And that's money that could be going to playground equipment or paving a parking lot, and there are several in Lakewood that God knows we need to pave, and we'll get to them, but we could get to them more quickly, the more money we save. And it's not without consequence, this lawsuit. That's the point of my letter. Thank you.
Thanks. Our final speaker on this agenda item is Judy Gillespie.
Judy Gillespie, 23003 Chandler's Lane. I brought a visual this time instead of a dictionary word, and I think you all would recognize this picture of a finger pointing. That's a finger pointing. We're all very familiar with that kind of gesture. And it's one of those universal signs. And I got it from the website, the seeds, and the number 4 light. So, I would like to say, remember when you point a finger at someone, there are 3 more pointing back at you. How easy it is for us to point at each other and criticize others' wrongdoings. How easy it is for us to point to each other and blame one another for certain circumstances. While we are blaming and criticizing others, we are forgetting one important fact. When we point the finger at someone, 3 of them are pointed right back at us. They point back at us to remind us that regardless of who or what we may feel is responsible for our current situation, ultimately, the responsibility is ours. We have 3 times more control than the one we point our finger to. 3 fingers. We also have 3 times more responsibility than the one point our one finger has. They also point back to us to remind us the imperfections we point out in others are also probably in us. When we are pointing at another's shortcomings and flaws, we are only defining ourselves as intolerant and judgmental. Those 3 fingers pointing back at us remind us to self-reflect and recognize and accept our imperfections and shortcomings instead of pointing them out in another. We are responsible for our actions as well as our consequences. We can either be slaves to the belief that the world is to blame, or we can recognize we are powerful beings in this world, capable of creating love and positive moral change. In closing, the big question is what really has happened to Lakewood city leaders and the 7 elected city council members? All the voters here in beautiful Lakewood have continued to entrust you all by their individual freedom to vote you into your government positions. I believe each one of those votes came with the expectations of quality leadership that will work at protecting us all from deceit, harm, and confusion that is so prevalent today in our very changing world. How do you think the current residents would rate you on your individual job performances or collective behaviors while serving out your term of office? The resounding questions in my mind are, is it thumbs up or is it thumbs down? You get to reflect privately on the ownership of your own answer. I would just strongly recommend, Mr. Bullock, that you would reconsider retracting your communication. I also would, in closing, like to remind you that there were 2,686 signatures that allowed the referendum to be put on the ballot on November 8th. Those voices have had many more voices added to them now that the hospital is closed and they're experiencing the devastation of the change and degradation in our city of Lakewood. Thank you.
Councilman O'Malley.
Thank you. I have no issue with Councilman Bullock's request for an accounting of costs on this or any other matter. I guess just a point of clarification in the final paragraph where he asks about a potential avenue in the lawsuit that could compensate Lakewood taxpayers. By compensate, I suspect he means compensate by the plaintiffs, but I don't want to assume that. Is that the case?
Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I wasn't attempting any specific legal strategy proposal here. I look to our law department for that. But the question would be, is there a possibility, if and when this lawsuit is finally concluded, that the full bill is not paid for by the taxpayer, but is paid for by some other means? I suppose that would be the plan. The cost of the lawsuit often, court fees, attorney fees sometimes are borne by one party or the other. I'm not informed at all. It's merely an open question. But if we're looking at, I hope, Mr. Chair or Mr. President, we can hear from the administration as to whether they do have figures to share, or we're going to have to come back on that. But if the costs are significant now, we have no end in sight for the lawsuit. It keeps climbing. It seems to me, if I have a dispute with, another city and I file suit against Rocky River, am I going to cost those taxpayers money because I have a bee in my bonnet about something that might have happened to me when I'm, walking through their neighborhoods? It seems to me that at some point, the cost that is significant, that is not agreed to by the whole community, frankly, the place where the community expresses its collective will is in elections, which did happen last November. There was no election involved in filing this lawsuit by 5 plaintiffs, or even if the plaintiffs could have been 105. And so therefore, it seems somewhat unfair that we have the meter running and it's running ad infinitum, and the community is just going to have to eat that bill?
Well, I mean,
That's my question.
So I think you've received a clarification, at least as to what Councilman Bullock was looking to hear from the administration. We could certainly open the floor to Law Director Butler for an explanation of what exactly that request might entail hypothetically, in terms of avenues to recoup some portions of court-related expenses for a lawsuit that could potentially be deemed to be without merit. Law Director Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not inclined to share any particular viewpoints as far as our legal strategy on recouping costs. That's a matter for the city to continue to discuss with its attorneys, and we'll have to see how the litigation shakes out as we continue to have those discussions. And so I will not be forthcoming with any response to that particular portion of Councilman Bullock's letter tonight. With all due respect, Councilman Bullock, it's just that's really a legal strategy question, and that's not something that I would ever care to share right here on the council floor. I will be very happy to respond tonight, with your permission, Mr. Chair, to the questions that Mr. Bullock has asked. They're good questions. And so if you want those, I'm happy to. Sure. Thus far, now, the figures that I will share with you are figures that relate only to what I call colloquially the taxpayer action, which is the case styled Edward Graham versus City of Lakewood et al. It's the lawsuit filed by the 5 plaintiffs against the city last spring. And so the figures that I'm sharing with you, for example, are distinguished from any costs of defending, for example, the lawsuit filed by Senator Skindell in December, which was dismissed shortly before the vote was taken on Ordinance 59 or 49-15. That case, for example, is on appeal. We are spending money fighting that appeal. We've spent money trying the case in the court in December. And so the figures I'm sharing with you do not involve that case at all. Be a separate conversation for a separate day, I suppose. The figures also don't account for the amount of time that the law department and the administration have spent responding, for example, to public records requests. Those are our obligations under the law, and we have not accounted for hours spent on just responding to hospital-related public records requests. So these figures don't have anything to do with that either. And I think there was some mention in Councilman Bullock's letter of public records requests. I distinguish the numbers that I provide you from any public records request responses. So just in the taxpayer action, the city has spent on outside counsel $125,148 thus far. Comes from the general fund, and that has been appropriated, and the contracting authority has been granted by council to spend that amount. Now, as the law director, I have an opportunity under the codified ordinances to bill my time to the city for litigation-related matters. I don't do that. I don't think it's historically been our practice for several law directors to do that. So I get paid a salary by the city, and so I asked, I conservatively estimated my time spent in the litigation based on a number of things, including the time spent on discovery, assisting our outside counsel, the defense, attending depositions, attending the various proceedings in court, and estimated that I had spent about 40% probably of what our outside counsel has spent on the case, I'd say, just on this particular case. So I estimated my time, we calculated my time charged to the city based on my salary and my benefits at about $19,000 to $20,000, in addition to the figure that I've just given you. So we are, and that now excludes any staff time in the law department. It excludes the mayor's time sitting through his deposition. So I'd say the direct costs and the indirect costs that I've provided thus far are somewhere between $145,000 and $150,000 total. That's just on that particular lawsuit. The separate inquiry in Councilman Bullock's letter was to see if we could estimate what we might be spending in the future. It's really impossible to do that, Councilman Bullock, because we don't know at what point the judge overseeing the case is going to be ruling on some very important motions that are pending. This is public information. I'm not sharing anything that's not. There are 2 motions to dismiss the lawsuit outright pending right now. Judge has had some difficulty having time to rule on those motions and has shared as much with us in courtroom proceedings. The case could be dismissed tomorrow. The case could not be dismissed. The case could be dismissed somewhere down the line. We're not certain exactly what's going to happen and when. We do have another pretrial conference set in August, and perhaps the judge will have made rulings on those motions by then. But with any litigation matter, it's very, very difficult to try to pinpoint the end in sight. We don't have a trial date set, for example. And so we don't know how long we're going to be engaged in this particular lawsuit. I certainly hope, for my benefit, for your benefit, for the taxpayers' benefit, that it's not going to be another year. But we just don't know. I hope that information is helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us tonight. I would ask, I guess, that if council members have additional follow-up inquiries, that they take liberty to follow up with Law Director Butler, perhaps individually. If not, we can certainly raise it in an additional committee as a topic or something of that nature. I guess we have currently pending the motion to receive and file that communication. Yes, Councilman Anderson.
Yeah, my only 2 cents on it is I do appreciate the spirit of the letter, and for the purposes of just planning a budget, possibly for next year, I think this is an important number for us to wrap our heads around, understanding that if this were dismissed, there might be an appeal, et cetera. So just understanding what we might need to identify by way of a specific line item in the budget for the 2017 fiscal year and maybe even beyond. So from that standpoint, information with a dollar amount that might be possible, might be potential, is important for us as we enter into the 2017 budget process. So I appreciate the communication, if not for other purposes, that one specifically.
Thank you. Any additional comments on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 10, communication from Councilmember Marks regarding Fitbits.
Councilmember Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, thanks to Director Yusefi and Council's approval, Fitbits were purchased at a cost of $117.95 and sold them to employees for $60 each, reflecting about a 50% savings. Many city employees are wearing the Fitbit to track their healthy living. The enthusiasm for the Fitbit is infectious, so much so that when I picked up my Fitbit on the first day of distribution, Director Yusefi distributed all the Fitbits ordered and had calls with requests that she could not fulfill. I suggest Council consider approving the additional purchase of Fitbits by Director Yusefi, allowing city employees who desire to monitor their healthy lifestyles the opportunity to do so. Studies show that employers engaging employees in healthy living and exercise programs save overall in healthcare expenses. I hope that the City of Lakewood not only reaps the benefits of healthcare savings, but also demonstrates to the community commitment to becoming one of the healthiest cities in the USA. Thanks for your consideration. Request to receive and file.
Thank you. Second, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file that communication?
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman Anderson.
Just want to thank you for the communication, Councilmember Marks. I just want to remind all of us in the community that the other 50% was basically underwritten by... The other 50% was basically underwritten by a grant. So this is at no cost to the city, even though that there's a 50% cost savings for the employees. Again, because the other 50% was covered by a grant from our healthcare provider, if I'm not mistaken. So, good program. I appreciate the communication and opportunity to expand this should one come up in the future for us. But this is 100% covered. So, I just want to make sure folks were reminded of the underwriting of that grant that we received. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to add my thanks to Director Yosefi and to Councilwoman Marks for bringing this communication to us, and look forward to looking at ways that we can continue the program and expand it. So, thanks. Any additional comments? Hearing none? Oh, I'm sorry, Director Penn.
She has hers on right now.
This is the Alta. When council is back from break, I'll introduce the contracting authority to increase that amount so we can purchase more.
Great, thank you for that update. Any other comments on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 13, communication from Finance Director Pay regarding 2016 third quarter transfers and advances.
Director Pay.
Thank you. Attached is the third quarter transfer ordinance. It's included in the 2016 appropriations. Please refer to Finance Committee for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 14, ordinance 3316, an ordinance authorizing the transfer in advance of certain funds.
Move to refer to finance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion to refer to finance? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 15, communication from Law Director Butler regarding update to contractor insurance requirements.
Law Director Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've already occupied too much of your time, so I'll just refer you to my written communication. The ordinance that follows, which I would encourage you to send to a committee, merely changes the minimum coverage limits that are in place for automobile insurance required of our contractors who register in the Division of Housing and Building. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 16, ordinance 3416, an ordinance to establish minimum coverage limits and fees required under various sections of the Lakewood Codified Ordinances related to insurance.
I would move to refer this to rules and ordinances.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to refer to rules and ordinances. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 17, communication from City Planner Russell regarding $1,200 donation from the Friends of Kaufman Park.
I believe we have Mr. Sylvester to share the communication from Mr. Russell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. We received a donation from the Friends of Kaufman Park in the amount of $1,200. They have decided to purchase a bench, which is going to be placed underneath the scoreboard at the walking path. There's currently a bench there, but it's a little rickety, so they purchased a nicer decorative bench for us to install there. And we recommend to receive and file tonight.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? I would just add that this is the second community-based contribution that will benefit Kaufman Park in as many council meetings. I'm very enthusiastic, as Kaufman Park is a great Ward 2 treasure and is utilized by a lot of people throughout our community, downtown and elsewhere. So looking forward to all of the community-sponsored improvements to that park. Any additional comment on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 18, communication from City Engineer Pat P. regarding council resolutions regarding Lakewood Heights Boulevard.
Director Beno.
Dear members of council, attached are two agreements for your consideration for the above project. First is ODOT local participation agreement between the City of Lakewood and ODOT. The second is a City of Lakewood, City of Cleveland cooperation agreement. The City of Lakewood is taking the lead organizer on this project. It's approximately a $2 million construction project, which will be paid 80% through ODOT funds and 20% through city funds. And those city funds will be divided up 57% Cleveland and 43% Lakewood. The cities are also responsible for 100% of the design cost, which we plan on beginning this year. Then construction is anticipated to take place in 2018. And this is for the portion of Lakewood Heights Boulevard from Chesterland Avenue to Alger at the I-90 on-ramp. Also, if possible, if this could be passed tonight, it would be great to get the design contract underway before the recess. Thanks.
Thank you. Council members will know we did also have a email communication from the mayor reiterating that request that we expedite our consideration of these two items tonight that follow the two resolutions, 888016 and 8881-16, as this is an important project and our ability to get these funds and the process to secure these funds has been onerous. So I would move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Director Beno. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file that communication? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 19, Resolution 888016, a resolution appropriating $394,070 and authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement which will allow the City of Lakewood to participate in the resurfacing of Lakewood Heights Boulevard from Chesterland Avenue to Alger Avenue in the cities of Lakewood and Cleveland with the Ohio Department of Transportation.
Thank you. Again, just to reiterate some of the points that were made by Director Beno just a moment ago, this project itself is not new in terms of being before council, but the ability to get the funds approved through ODOT and the City of Cleveland is what is before us tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any additional comments or discussion from council members on 8880-16? Hearing none, I move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 20, Resolution 888116, a resolution to enter into a cooperative agreement with the City of Cleveland for the resurfacing of Lakewood Heights Boulevard from Chesterland Avenue to Alger Avenue in the cities of Lakewood and Cleveland with the assistance of the Ohio Department of Transportation.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion to adopt? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 21, liquor permit notice for a new C1 Class 2 food and fancy store, 13702 Madison Avenue.
Thank you. I believe we are in receipt of a report for this establishment today. So, and this is in Councilman Litton's ward, correct? Thank you. Sorry about that. Councilman Litton.
I have reviewed the report, and I would only add that it's a small specialty store that serves Burmese and other cultures, so it's an interesting little place, but I have no statutory reason to object.
Thank you. Move to file without objection.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? And that motion passes, bringing us to the end of our agenda and public comment. We've got two folks signed up to speak tonight, and the first is Tom Monahan.
Mr.
Chairman, Tom Monahan, 1487 Waterbury. I rise tonight to request council to consider a resolution when you get back in your September meeting that will, I don't know how to put the word, but to show support for the Dallas Police Department, Baton Rouge Police Department, our own Lakewood Police Department, and for the Cleveland Police Department and all the peacekeepers that are trying to keep the lid on the town downtown. I would ask that you give some consideration to that, and also in part of that resolution that you memorialize the Glenville shootout that took place 48 years ago in Cleveland, which two of my dear friends were shot and killed in the ambush of that despicable night. Something, first thing I saw that night when I went down to City Hall was somebody's service revolver sticking under my nose. And the night went downhill from there, and the week went downhill from there. We lost 3 good men, and also a number of the police officers were shot up during that assault by the Black Nationalists. So I would hope that you would give some consideration to that, and especially for our local folks here. We've got a great police department, thanks to Chief Malley. Every time I've had contact with any of the members there, they were extremely polite. And that was one of the things that I tried to, when I was teaching in the police academy a long time ago, try to put into the minds of these folks that you're going to get a lot more out of a kind and friendly gesture. And I always told one quick story. It was a policeman who pulled over a woman on Lorraine Avenue in front of the old Sinclair station, or the Sunoco station up on Lorraine. And he got off the motorcycle and he cussed this woman out and had kids in the car. Broke her up completely. She had to go in, call her husband to come from work to pick her up. And that night, the owner of the gas station was going home. He lived in Brooklyn, and he was going about 90 miles an hour down Memphis. And a Brooklyn police officer pulled him over, and he said the guy was so kind, and he realized it was 2 o'clock in the morning and there was no traffic, but boy, you were really sailing, and I got to give you a ticket. And he said that to the judge. He said, told the tale of 2 officers. So I would hope that you would give some consideration to those men and women that are out there protecting us, okay? Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Coletta Graham.
Coletta Graham, 1286 Chase Avenue. Is the new sound system in as far as the microphones? Because it is really hard hearing the council people. Now, when Ms. Page talked, tremendous volume on her microphone, but all of your microphones are...
We're getting there. They're almost complete.
They're almost done with it, okay. The main reason I'm here tonight is to thank Mr. Bennell. How's that for a change, Joe? At the last council meeting, I was very upset about the debris and the way Merle Avenue was, and within 2 days, God bless him, he cleaned every bit of it up. And he also got that tree cut down on Manor Park, so I was really happy about that. I know I'm not allowed to ask questions, which I find interesting, because Mr. Bullock says he welcomes all that we have to say with, when we come to the microphone, but when you can't ask any questions, it sort of inhibits you. But I do want to ask one question. I want to ask it of the mayor. Is he aware or knows about how many homes in the city of Lakewood have been rented as far as the Republican convention is concerned?
Sure, Mayor Summers.
The number we know for sure is 9, but actually we believe there's more through some of the third-party rental programs. So don't know the exact number, but at least 9, could be double that.
Well, that's very good to hear. Last but not least is an item that was inserted in my water bill. To say I am furious about this is ridiculous. I don't want 1 cent that I pay as far as this water is concerned to put your PR piece there in this. Absolutely ridiculous. You list all these so-called places. I mean, half of them are drugstores, for God's sake. Have any of you gotten this? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Who paid for the printing of this? This has to cost an arm and a leg to have this done. Somebody from City Hall had to comprise it. I want to know, there's no accountability. We, the people, should be allowed to get the God-blessed water bill and not have this junk stuck down our throat. Can I get an answer on that? How do you allow this to happen?
Mayor, sure, I would welcome your response. I have a couple thoughts that I can share as well, but...
Well, in fact, I marvel that many of your group have said time and time again that we need to inform the people about the medical services in Lakewood. And the fact of the matter is, the delivery of many aspects of primary care today are delivered at a retail level. We have minute clinics that are giving immunizations, they're doing strep tests, things that we historically used to go to a doctor's office to get are now being administered by nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and other licensed medical technicians to deliver services that are now spread throughout our region, and that is a fact. And so the idea that our citizens need to be aware that these services are available at these places is an important element of accessibility. And as to cost, it costs about $200 actually, because there's no additional postage. It's really about the copying of the copies and the insertion into an envelope. So it's a very limited cost.
Who comprised them?
There were many of us that worked on the contents of that, and there will be additional ones as well. We believe the citizens of Lakewood have a need and an interest to know many aspects of our community. We've talked about economic development. We're certainly going to talk about healthcare, which we've done. I think in the world today where historically we relied on journalists and newspapers, and aside from Bruce Geiselman here, as a trained journalist, we have a hard time getting word in a world that relies on social media and blogs. So how we communicate is a big challenge to us. So we think it's an important role, and it's probably one of the most economical roles we can, and avenues we can take to communicate to our citizens.
Your list, Mayor Summers, is nothing. I mean, Eliza Jennings, I mean, O'Neill, these are all pertaining to their facility. Okay, you're saying it's only $200.
Well,
Is that a
actually,
fact?
O'Neill provides dialysis care for a wide variety of citizens way beyond their particular residence.
Ms. Graham, I'm afraid that
My
that's all
time's
we
up.
have
Is that
time
what you- I
for this
know.
evening.
I
So
know.
we appreciate your
But I do
comments
love
as
the
always,
arrows.
and
There's not one
look forward
facility.
to seeing you again
Not
next
one
time.
facility in the city of
Thanks
Lakewood.
so much. Okay, that brings us to the end of public comment for this evening. As was alluded to in the course of the previous comments, I would like to announce that when we do meet our first meeting in September, we'll have some audiovisual and technological changes to the room. Things will be looking a little bit
And
different.
aesthetic.
Yes, and aesthetic. So look forward to that. And in the meantime, best wishes for a great month of August. Any announcements from council members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to echo the comments of Mr. Moynihan earlier, and just thank the administration in general and our chiefs specifically for the coordination and care for our employees, our EMS and our emergency personnel all across the city for making themselves available to the degree that they are for the convention. And also knowing that we still need to take care of Lakewood, so I know that that's not an easy task to balance, and I appreciate the effort very, very much. You know, for one who was downtown a lot today, I saw law enforcement from all across the country. I know Lakewood's playing its role, and I appreciate the opportunity to support the administration in doing that. But it's just, I'll take a thought, I'll take a prayer, whatever everyone feels like they need to do, just to make sure these folks are in our minds and our hearts. And hopefully we'll have a great, smooth week. And Friday can't come here soon enough for some of us, I believe. But let's just hope and pray that we do have incident-free week and we get our safety forces back to where they all belong. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other announcements? Mayor Summers.
Well, I certainly wish council a great break. Rest up, because when you come back, we have to take on the Clean Water Act and its long-term implementation. We started that process, and that's actually exciting and very important. And I would argue, for decades to come, perhaps among the most important elements of action by this government that we will take. And we will take up budgets. We have negotiations in the third and fourth quarter of this year. So we've got a lot of good work ahead of us, so rest up. I'm glad you have the break.
Thanks. Without further announcements or further business before council, oh, sorry, we've got one more announcement. Director Gelsomino.
I'm not used to making these announcements, but I'm glad Jean reminded me that H2O's event, H2O is having a fundraiser tomorrow night, and it is at the Dunk Tank around the corner. It is great fun, and it actually raises quite a bit of money to support our summer camp program. So you can eat and dunk people at the same time.
Not a bad way to cool off. All right. Any other business before council? If not, I move to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.